Hey guys, it's Julian from Beneath the Bunk Studios. I hope you're doing wonderfully today. We are Beneath the Bunk discussing how you can create, structure, and use a writing template during writing sessions in order to maximize creativity and separate the writing process from the mixing process. Let's get into it. So as you can see here, we are in Cubase 10.5 Pro. Fortunately for you guys, if you're not working in Cubase, you can replicate pretty much everything I'm showing you in any other DAW. So don't click off this video just because you think it doesn't apply to you. I promise you it does. So real quick, I'm going to play the song I came up with just for this video. Absolutely nothing special, just a rough idea. I needed something in order to illustrate my ideas here, so check this out. And then it just loops from there. Like I said, nothing special. It's not mixed yet, but that's the point. We're not talking about mixing yet. We're talking about writing. And what I will say about this song that you just heard is that I haven't done a single fader move. I haven't done a single EQ move, compression move. I haven't done anything. Everything that you hear is balanced, is EQ'd, is compressed, EQ'd and compressed only to some degree. From the get-go, I'm not thinking about those things when I'm coming up with ideas. How am I doing that? Well, first, let's run through the template just so you could understand what you're looking at here. Here I have my drums in purple, I have my bass in red, I have my guitar in yellow, and keys in green, FX in orange, and vocals in light blue, but I'm not using those right now, and all of these are folders. If we open up the drums folder, we'll start with drums. You'll see my real drums and you'll see my E drums, and you'll also see a drum group. Drum groups made from the get-go, turned down from the get-go. You can see the level right here, and it is ready to go, balanced, and just everything's routed to that already. So E drums, you know, your trap drums, your hip-hop drums, not acoustic real drums. I have those in there, and I also have my real drums folder. And what my real drums folder is it's a selection of 4 different drum samplers that have acoustic drum samples that I like to use. So first we have Get Good Drums, the Matt Halpern pack. We have Get Good Drums, the Modern and Massive pack. We have Steven Slate Drums 5, and we have Superior Drummer 3. If you open up any of these subsequent folders, you will see that each sampler is already multi-routed out to individual tracks and groups. So for example, I'm using Get Good Drums, Modern and Massive in this instance, and we have our MIDI track. This is where all the MIDI that I'm writing goes. We have our kick sum, kick sub, kick modern and massive. So I have my, kick modern and massive. I have my kick Matt Halpern. I have individual buses for each group of kit pieces for each sampler. So it's pretty in-depth, it's pretty crazy, but once you get it set up, it's so worth it because it really expedites everything. So bottom line is, all of that is multi-outed and ready to go. If you look one layer further and we open up our mix window here, everything that's highlighted is the modern and massive stuff, and you'll see that faders are moved. Like I said before, I haven't touched any faders since I started this project, and these are set from the get-go. Relative balances are going, and so what that allows me to do is it allows me to open up a MIDI event and create a snare hit, for example, or a kick hit, or whatever I want to create, and it's already balanced with respect to the rest of the kick. So the snare is going to sound like it goes with the kick is going to sound like it goes with the cymbals, and everything's going to sound like it goes together. It's going to sound like a cohesive kit. And what you'll also notice is if you check out my master bus while just these drums are playing, you'll see that on my master bus, the levels are pretty good. We're not peaking too high. We're not peaking in any crazy places. And I have nothing to worry about gain staging wise. My gain staging is taken care of. My balancing is taken care of so that I can get my ideas down without having to worry about any of that crap. Now that we've talked about drums and how I have all that going, let's talk about bass, and let's talk about guitar and keys. There are no vocals on this, so I won't talk about that right now. I'll touch on it, but I won't talk about it very in depth. So this is where we have to start talking about track archives. What are track archives? Track archives are Cubase's versions of track presets. So if you're in Pro Tools, you know track presets. I'm sure other DAWs have track presets too. So I have a keyboard shortcut, which is Control-Alt-Shift. On Mac, that would be Command-Option-Shift. Control-Alt-Shift-I. So when I press that, I get taken to my track archives folder on my computer. And this is a folder full of a bunch of different presets that I've created just for this template. And why are these important? Well, if we go into bass, which is what we're talking about right now, you'll see that I have a selection of different tones. I have bass MIDI, which is bass samplers. I have bass sims, which is for when I'm playing real bass and I want a real tone that's going to sound good right from the get-go. I have some distorted tones, I have some clean tones, I have some more distorted tones, and I also have bass synth stuff. So if I'm working on a song where I want a bass synth, I can import that from Contact, Omnisphere, or Serum, and they will be balanced from the get-go, ready to go. So that's what I did in the case of this red bass track that you see here. In this instance, I'm using a program bass. I'm using the Impact Studio's Nuclear Bass DI. And on the channel, once Cubase stops autosaving and lets me do things, I'll be able to show you that I already have plugins going here. So I have the DI tone without any plugins. It sounds like this. And with plugins, it sounds like this. So when I do Control-Alt-Shift-I, and I go to my bass folder, and I import bass MIDI distorted and nuclear, which is what this is. That's what all these short abbreviations stand for. I'm going to have something that instantly works with the drums, and from the get-go, I'm going to program a part, and it's going to sound like this with the drums. Does it sound perfect? Does it sound mixed? No. Does it matter? No. It sounds good enough for you to understand what your idea sounds like in context without you having to pull out plugins, without you having to worry about EQ settings, without you having to worry about any of that kind of stuff. Now let's talk about guitars. I have a very similar process with guitars. So if I go Control-Alt-Shift-I again to open my track archives folder, and I go from track archives to guitar, I open up guitar, and you're going to see that I have a bunch of different guitar amp sims that have tones of different varieties that I enjoy, that I think are a good starting point 99% of the time when I'm just trying to sketch an idea out. If I were to double click Guitar Sim Rhythm Hub 1, this is a Tonehub tone, and I select all, and I import, right away we get 4 channels down here, one of which is a group track, and 3 of which are actual tracks that are meant for recording. So they're disabled by default because I like to cut down on loading times. This is literally the same as this, so I'm going to delete these and illustrate this to you here where you'll be able to understand it better. So, like you saw before, when I import a track archive, I have 4 tracks. I have the sum, which is the blue track right here, and what that's doing is that's where the tone is. So if you go to the mixer window and you look at my inserts here, you'll see Tonehub, which is carrying the tone that these 2 tracks are providing on the DI. So if you look at the DI, that's where my DIs are on these 2 tracks, and they're getting sent to this, which has the tone on it. So right from the get-go, when I import that track preset and I play it, and I just play the guitars along with the bass and the drums and anything else that I have going on in the mix, it already sounds balanced. Remember, I didn't have to touch a single fader to get it to sound like that. So as far as keys and effects go, because you see these here and I talked about them earlier, in this case I did make these from scratch. I will always make keys from scratch just by creating an instrument track and loading up the instrument that I want. In this case I used Analog Lab 4 by Arturia, and then I routed it to my keys bus, which is pre-made in this template. And then I do the same thing with effects. Like if I want a cool swell, I'll come over here in my media folder and I'll find a swell, and then I'll just drag it onto an audio track and move that here and route it to the FX group. Now let's talk about vocals. So vocals, nothing in there if you open up the folder right from the template, but if I go into my track archive from Control-Alt-Shift-I, and I go into track archives and I go into vocals, then I do Vox tracks, I double click that, and what I'm going to get if I click select all is a bunch of vocal tracks that already have compressors on them, that already have sends routed for effects, that already have a bunch of other stuff ready to go, so that I just click record and I plug in my microphone. It's already plugged in actually, and I just start singing, I start screaming, I start doing whatever it is that I'm doing for the song. So yeah, that's pretty much all I got, guys. That's how I take song ideas, put them in my DAW, and without thinking have songs that instantly sound as decently balanced as this does. barely any fader moves involved. Sounds good from the get-go. Don't have to worry about anything technical. And it just works. And it allows my writing process to be very smooth. And I hope that it can allow for your writing process to also be very smooth. I hope this helped you. If it did, let me know down below. Drop a like, drop a subscription. Tell me, give me critiques, all that kind of good stuff. And I will see you later.